This program is educational and supportive, not a substitute for your clinician's advice. If your scalp becomes very painful, hot, swollen, or you feel unwell, please seek medical care. Good morning, and welcome. I'm grateful you're here. At EverWell USA, our purpose is steady and simple: to help you protect your health and dignity as you age, with calm guidance you can actually use today. If this kind of clear, encouraging care helps you, consider tapping. Like, subscribe, and share so these messages reach someone you love. You are not alone. We walk beside you, one small, doable step at a time. Today we're answering a question that makes many people pause after 60. What does it really mean when pimples show up on the scalp? If I told you that the bumps you feel along the crown or hairline are often less about dirty hair and more about how your skin's oils, natural yeast, and hormones shift with age, would that change what you try first? Most of us were taught that pimples belong to teenagers, and the cure is the harshest shampoo on the shelf. But the scalp you live with at 65 or 75 is not the one you had at 16. It protects you differently, it produces oil differently, and it reacts differently to hats, heat, and products. When you grasp that, you stop blaming yourself and start working with your scalp instead of against it. Let's talk plainly about the 3 ideas behind most scalp pimples in later life without drowning you in big terms. First, there's a pattern of redness, itch, and flake that can leave tender little bumps under the scale. In clinic language, it's often called seborrheic dermatitis, which simply means your natural oil and your skin's everyday yeast have fallen out of balance and are now irritating the surface. It isn't dirt, and it isn't a moral failure. Second, there's follicle irritation. Each hair grows from a tiny opening, and that opening can get clogged or rubbed the wrong way by sweat, residue, or tight headwear, which makes a small, sore bump. Third, there are whole body changes, shifts in thyroid, blood sugar, sex hormones, new medications that nudge the scalp toward reactivity. None of these automatically signal something dangerous. They're your body tapping you on the shoulder and asking for a kinder routine. You might already recognize the rhythm. You go for a brisk walk and keep your cap on while you cool down. You delay washing until tomorrow, because that's what you've always done. By evening, you're a little itchy. Without thinking, you scratch while you read. Later, you feel small bumps and decide you need a stronger product. The next day, you scrub harder. Your scalp feels tight, and by afternoon, it shines with fresh oil, and the cycle begins again. The truth is humbler and more hopeful. Older scalps want consistency more than intensity. They want lukewarm water instead of heat, fingertips instead of nails, and a longer rinse instead of another product piled on top. They want hats and headbands washed regularly, hair dried fully before bed, and a pillowcase that isn't quietly storing yesterday's residue. Because the words we use can either open doors or close them, I want to translate the common labels into everyday understanding. Sebum is simply the natural oil your skin makes to stay comfortable. Dermatitis is irritation. Put together, the phrase just describes a fussy conversation between oil and skin. When age changes the recipe of that oil, the yeast that normally lives harmlessly on everyone's skin can feast a little too happily, and the scalp protests with itch, flakes that cling to hair, and tender bumps where the flakes sit. Scrubbing strips the surface layer that keeps you calm. Your scalp, trying to help, may even push out more oil to rebuild that layer, which makes you think you failed, which makes you scrub again. Today is about stepping off that ride. Follicles deserve their own moment. Each hair's tiny doorway can be crowded by dried sweat after gardening, by a slick leave-in product that never fully rinses, or by the same cap rubbing the same spot on every afternoon walk. The doorway swells and you feel a bump that stings when your comb finds it. The fix is not to pop the bump, the fix is to help the doorways breathe. That means washing after sweaty activity instead of waiting until morning, letting hair and scalp dry completely before sleep, and giving your favorite hat a bath on a regular schedule. None of this is glamorous. All of it works with how the scalp actually lives. Whole body signals matter as well. If your clinician has been adjusting your thyroid medication, if your blood sugar has been drifting upward, if you started a new pill with dryness or itch hidden in the fine print, your scalp may be the first messenger. You don't have to become your own lab. You can become a gentle observer. Keep a tiny note by the mirror for 1 week. Write the date, what touched your scalp most that day, shampoo brand, cap, hairspray, how long your hair stayed damp, and a simple itch rating from 0 to 10 at bedtime. Patterns will introduce themselves. Maybe every time you wear that cozy beanie for hours, the crown complains the next day. Maybe the tingly deep clean shampoo is more drama than your skin wants. Knowledge here is not a lecture. It's a quiet friend. It's also worth exploring the quiet spaces we often skip. The pillow is a nightly partner. If you lie down with damp hair, moisture hugs the scalp for hours. If your pillowcase holds yesterday's styling spray or conditioner, it returns that film to your follicles night after night. A simple habit of thoroughly drying hair before turning in and swapping pillowcases every few nights lowers the temperature on irritation. If you use devices with straps CPAP for sleep apnea, hearing aids with over-ear bands wipe the contact points that touch the hairline and check that a strap isn't rubbing the same small patch each evening. These are not beauty tips. They are skin, kindness choices. People often ask about diet because it touches everything. What you eat will not turn a switch on your scalp overnight, but steady your blood sugar, enough water through the day, and a calm hand with sweets and alcohol set a gentler background. Think of your scalp like any other part of you. It behaves better when the rest of you feels steady. People also ask about stress, which rarely causes problems all by itself, but reliably pours fuel on little sparks. If you notice that itch accelerates when worry does, choose one interrupt you actually like. A slow breath practice while the shower warms, a short stroll before dinner, or a call to someone who makes you laugh. An anxious mind scratches more. A steadier mind presses the flat of the hand over the itchy spot for 10 seconds, then lets go. I want to ease another fear I hear a lot. That bumps on the scalp at this age must be serious. Most are not. They are common irritations that respond to patience. Times to be seen promptly include bumps that spread with heat and pus, a stripe of blisters on one side with burning pain, fever, or general unwellness. Otherwise, a calm home plan is not only reasonable, it's wise. And if you are on blood thinners or have fragile skin, be especially gentle. Avoid scratching. Small breaks in the skin can bleed more and heal more slowly. That is an argument for kindness, not for worry. Because this show promises helpful action, let's give you 2 things you can do today without memorizing chemistry or buying a basket of products. First, simplify and soften your wash. Choose a gentle, fragrance-free shampoo and use lukewarm water. Massage with fingertips rather than nails. Give the lather a short stay and rinse longer than you think you need to. Pat dry, then allow the scalp to air dry fully before bed. Second, start that 7-day note. Write down what touched your scalp, how long it stayed damp, whether a hat or headband sat on one spot for hours, and how itchy the evening felt on a 10-point scale. These 2 steps do more for older scalps than most heroic fixes, because they reduce noise and increase understanding. If a week of these changes brings calmer skin, keep going. If not, you'll bring a clear story to your clinician, which is the best gift you can offer when asking for targeted help. You may be wondering why we haven't used many big words. It's not because your mind can't handle them. It's because your life doesn't require them to move forward. You don't need a lecture to treat your scalp with respect. You need a path that fits into the day you already have. A path that says, less heat, less perfume, less friction, more rinse, more drying time, more noticing. When you walk that path for a week, the bumps often soften, the itch quiets, and you feel like yourself again. As we close this first part, remember that this is not about chasing perfection. It is about building a kinder routine and paying attention to what your skin is telling you. I'll meet you in the next part to help you tell the difference between simple follicle irritation and the kind of ongoing inflammation that deserves professional guidance, and we'll keep the language just as plain. For now, choose the gentler wash tonight. Dry fully before bed. Tidy your pillowcase. And begin your small mirror note. These are not chores. They are acts of care for the person who has carried you this far. You and I are going to make sense of what your scalp is saying in a way that feels doable, not overwhelming. In the first part, we soften the ground. Kinder washing, thorough rinsing, fully drying, clean pillowcases, mindful hats, and a simple 7-day note by the mirror. Today, we move one step closer to clarity, learning to tell when bumps are mostly about crowded hair follicles and daily habits, when they are part of that oil and yeast quarrel people call seborrheic, and when the wider body is nudging the scalp to speak up. You don't need to memorize terms, you need a feel for patterns. Patterns are kinder than labels because they guide your next right step. Imagine a quiet evening with the TV murmuring and a glass of water on the side table. You reach up and feel two tender bumps near the back of the head, where the cap rests on your afternoon walk. They're small, a little sore when the comb passes, and the skin around them looks normal. That's the voice of a crowded doorway, a hair follicle that's been rubbed or sealed in. These bumps tend to show where fabric presses, where sweat dries under a brim, or where product residue lingers. They often fade when you rinse after activity, rotate or wash the cap more often, and give the scalp full air-drying time before bed. They protest friction and film more than anything else. Think doorway care. Reduce rubbing, reduce residue, reduce trapped dampness. If your mirror note shows those bumps come after gardening with a hat that hasn't seen the washer, that is not a diagnosis. It is a helpful map. Now picture a different day. You notice itch before bumps. When you scratch, small flakes lift, sometimes soft and yellowish, sometimes dry. The redness is patchy along the crown, behind the ears, or at the hairline. And under the flakes you feel tender points like little buttons. Shampoo days feel better for a while. Then symptoms drift back in waves, especially during stress or colder weather. That pattern, the flake plus itch plus tenderness, is the oil and yeast argument. Your scalp's natural oil has changed with age, and the usual yeast that lives on everyone's skin is enjoying the new recipe too much. Scrubbing seems logical, but harshness stokes the quarrel. Consistency calms it. Gentle wash, longer rinse, kinder drying, and fewer fragrances. If your note shows flare-ups after spicy dinners, several nights of wine, or a run of very dry indoor heat, you're not catching yourself doing wrong. You're noticing that the background weather matters. When the background is steady, the flare is smaller. When the background is choppy, the flare is louder. And then there are the times your scalp reflects the larger story of your body. Maybe your clinician has adjusted thyroid medication. Maybe your blood sugar has been climbing. Your sleep is choppy. Or you're adding a new pill with dryness or itch tucked into the fine print. The scalp can become a sensitive reporter, not to scare you, but to motivate steadiness. You'll hear people online argue about single miracle ingredients. Set those arguments aside. What helps most, especially after 65, is a short chain of gentle habits you can repeat. Repetition is where healing happens. Let's anchor this learning in a morning that belongs to you. You stand at the kitchen counter with your mug warming your hands. On the notepad by the toaster, your mirror note's little cousin, you write today's date. Circle a simple word, itch 4/10, and jot 3 clues you will test this week. Wash after walks instead of waiting. Air dry completely before resting your head, and rotate the navy cap with the gray one while keeping both clean. You're not promising yourself a brand new personality. You're adjusting the small hinges that swing the big door. The question I hear most is, how do I know when to keep working my home plan and when to ask for targeted help? Keep working the home plan when bumps are small, scattered in the zones where fabric rubs or sweat dries, and when itch and flakes settle with a week of gentler washing and cleaner routines. Ask for help when the scalp is hot, painful, or oozing. When tender bumps cluster and worsen despite the calmer plan. When patches spread fast. Or when you see that stripe of blisters with burning pain on one side. Also ask if your note shows steady patterns that don't respond to a week of changes. Or if scratching feels impossible to control. You are not burdening anyone. You are bringing a clear story to your clinician. And clarity is kindness in healthcare. Many people wonder about products without wanting a shopping lecture. Here is a practical way to think, without getting lost in the aisle. Your scalp, like an old friend, prefers fewer surprises. Choose one gentle option and give it 2 weeks to speak before you switch. Fragrance-free is usually friendlier. Tingle is usually a hint of peppermint or menthol pleasant on the nose, often unnecessary for the skin. Rich residues can comfort hair, but can crowd follicles. If you love a conditioner, keep it mainly on the ends and rinse well. If you ever try a product and feel immediate stinging, that is your scalp voting with conviction, you can thank it and let that product go. There's a household rhythm that helps more than any label. The wash and wear cycle for the things that touch your head. Hats, scarves, headbands, pillowcases, and even the soft liner inside a favorite pair of headphones collect whatever your scalp and hair carry. If they never see the washer, your careful routine meets an unhelpful loop. Give each of these items a simple schedule. Every few wears, into the wash they go. No perfection needed, just movement. If you use a wig or partial hairpiece, clean the base and combs on the schedule recommended by the maker and give your scalp a daily window of fresh air at home. Think of it as kindness rather than maintenance. Because this is EverWell, we should talk gently about the feelings that hitch a ride. For many older adults, visible flakes, redness near the hairline, or the urge to scratch in public stir old embarrassment. Please hear this from a doctor who has seen countless scalps. Shame cures nothing. Curiosity and steadiness do. If you find your hand drifting to scratch while you read or watch a show, place a smooth object in that hand, a pen without a cap, a cool spoon, a small stress ball so your fingers have somewhere else to fidget. Replace scratching with firm, still pressure from the flat of your hand for 10 slow seconds. Then release. It is a substitution, not a scolding. Over days, the habit loosens. The grocery store offers a surprising classroom. On a quick trip for milk and apples, glance at the personal care aisle and notice how many bottles shout about power. Ultra clean, deep purify, instant relief. Your scalp does not need shouting. If you scan the back labels, you'll see perfumes called fragrance and dyes with bright names. You don't need to decode everything. You just need to choose the quieter bottle and let time do its work. When you return home, put a small dot with a marker on the cap and write today's date. 2 weeks later, if your note shows calmer days and fewer tender bumps, the bottle can stay. If not, it can go. You are not failing. You are learning. In the afternoon, you call a friend to catch up, and you mention your new tiny experiment. She laughs and says she scratches more when she's anxious, then tells you she started washing her walking hat on Sundays, which helped more than she expected. This is how health spreads. Not through grand pronouncements, but through ordinary neighbors trading small, workable ideas. You do not have to fix your scalp alone. You can keep what helps and kindly ignore the rest. We have not talked about perfection because older scalps do not ask for it. They ask for steadiness. Suppose you have a week with 3 family events and forget to change the pillowcase. Suppose you fall asleep in the recliner with damp hair after a warm bath. Suppose you tend a grandchild through a cold and your routine unravels. None of that erases what you have built. When the house quiets, return to the few anchors that worked. Lukewarm water, fingertips, longer rinse, full dry, clean fabric against your head, and a brief note at night. Health is the art of returning. If you're curious about how other conditions mingle with scalp comfort, here is a plain way to think. When blood sugar runs high for stretches, skin feels drier and more reactive while healing slows. Bumps linger, scratching breaks take longer to settle, and flakes can multiply. When thyroid runs low, skin often feels rougher and more sensitive, which makes harsh products less forgiving. When sleep is short, you notice itch more. You cannot control everything. You can help your body feel steadier with water through the day, balanced meals, a bit of movement, and evening routines that help you wind down. Each of those choices is good for your heart and brain, and, in a quiet way, good for your scalp too. Let's step back and listen to the whole choir. You now know that small sore bumps where hats press are usually doorways asking for air and cleanliness. You know that itch, with flakes and tender spots across common zones, is often the oil and yeast quarrel asking for a calmer, simpler routine. You know the pillow can be a friend or a mischievous accomplice, and that damp hair at bedtime writes long letters on the skin. You know your mirror note tells stories that memory misses, and you know that when pain runs hot, pus spreads, fever rises, or a blistery stripe burns on one side, those are strong signals to be seen. What can you do today that keeps this learning from drifting away? 2 gentle actions, neither dramatic, both powerful. First, make a tiny touch calendar for the week. Choose the days you will wash the hat, swap the pillowcase, and rinse after your planned walk. and write them on a single sticky note near the door. When the day arrives, do the thing and draw a small check mark. Don't negotiate, just check. Second, choose a no-scratch hour in the evening, perhaps during your favorite show. During that hour, keep your scalp hands off, unless you are washing or drying. If the urge rises, press the flat of your hand for 10 seconds, or glide a cool spoon over the itchy area once. Then stop. You are training a new reflex without a scold. By now, you can feel the difference between fighting your scalp and befriending it. Fighting makes you chase products and blame yourself. Befriending makes you listen, simplify, and return to anchors. In our final part, we'll keep the same plain language and talk about how to bring your clear story to your clinician if you need targeted help, how to set expectations for timelines, how to choose routines that survive travel and winter, and how to measure progress with comfort rather than perfection. For tonight, let warm water be enough. Let patience be your main ingredient, and let a fresh pillowcase meet a fully dry head. You are not behind. You are on your way. And that is the only way we ever get anywhere worth going. You and I have walked through the gentler wash, the mirror note, the clean pillowcase, the washed hat, and the no-scratch hour. You have learned to spot when bumps are mostly about crowded follicles, when they ride with flakes and oil imbalance, and when they might be whispering about wider body shifts. In this closing stretch, let's talk about how to carry your story into the clinic if needed, how to weave your new habits into the fabric of travel and seasons, and how to measure progress in ways that actually matter to you. Picture yourself at the kitchen table, calendar open, a pen resting between your fingers. On one page is your week's worth of mirror notes, itch scores, damp hair reminders, cap washes. It is not perfect. There are gaps. Yet when you trace your finger across the page, you see patterns. Calmer nights after Sunday pillowcase changes, flares on days you left hair damp before bed, steadiness when you rotated caps. This is not busy work. This is clarity. And clarity is a gift to your future self and to your clinician. When you bring such a note to an appointment, you are not just saying, "My scalp bothers me." You are showing a map of when and how. That map helps your doctor decide whether a topical cream might help the oil yeast quarrel, whether a medication side effect is nudging your skin, or whether a broader blood test is wise. The note saves time, money, and frustration. It is a small notebook. It becomes a powerful ally. Now think about travel, because life does not pause for scalp routines. You may be going to see a grandchild graduate, or visiting friends in another state, or joining a bus tour for a weekend. Travel means new pillows, different water, strange climates. The trick is not to carry your whole bathroom. The trick is to pack your anchors. A travel-size gentle shampoo, a soft towel you trust for drying fully, a spare pillowcase tucked into the suitcase, and a cap you know is washed. When you arrive, claim your small routines. Rinse after walking, dry thoroughly, swap pillowcases midweek. These are not chores. They are threads of familiarity that keep your scalp calmer in new places. You may not prevent every flare, but you prevent the chaos of guessing. Seasons matter too. In winter, heated air indoors dries the skin and can make flakes stubborn. In summer, sweat and sunscreen crowd the follicles. Spring and fall swing back and forth. The same anchors apply. Lukewarm wash, thorough rinse, full dry, clean fabrics, and gentle observation. Add small adjustments. A humidifier on very dry nights. A quick rinse after a hot walk. Lighter products in humid months. When you expect the seasons to influence your scalp, the bumps feel less like betrayal and more like weather, something you adjust for rather than blame yourself about. There's also the measure of progress. If you wait for perfect, you'll always feel behind. If you measure in smaller, truer ways, you'll see how far you've come. Can you go an evening show without scratching? Did you notice the itch number dropping from 7 to 4 after a week of consistent habits? Did your spouse mention fewer flakes on your shoulders? These are not small. These are the ways real life says, better. When you celebrate those wins, you create fuel to keep going. Let's listen to a neighbor's story, because stories carry more weight than instructions. A gentleman in his 70s kept switching shampoos every week, frustrated that nothing worked. His daughter suggested he write down what happened instead of trying a new bottle. Reluctantly, he did. 2 weeks later, he brought his note to his doctor. Bumps flared every Tuesday and Thursday, the same days he played cards in a wool cap he never washed. The fix was not a new shampoo. The fix was to launder the cap. Within a month, his bumps softened, his confidence returned, and he laughed at how simple it seemed in hindsight. What looks like magic is usually observation. What looks like wisdom is usually consistency. You might also wonder how long it takes. The truth is, scalps calm slower than our patience wants. Give a new routine 2 weeks before judging it. Expect gentle improvement, not overnight rescue. Think of it like walking for heart health. One stroll will not change your blood pressure, but steady walks over months will. Likewise, calmer scalps arrive from repetition, not from the strongest label you can find. Before we end, let's gather this in one small action you can do today. Tonight, as you prepare for bed, make a conscious choice. Fully dry your hair, swap your pillowcase, and jot a note about your itch level. It takes 5 minutes total. That is your way of saying to your scalp, I am listening. And a scalp that feels heard is a scalp that begins to quiet. This is where we pause our journey for now. You have walked from surprise and confusion, through recognition, through steadiness, and into hope. Remember, you are not alone in this. EverWell USA stands with you, believing that dignity and comfort in later life come from the smallest, most human acts of care. Thank you for spending this time here, for letting these words meet your living days. Share this with someone who could use the reassurance. And as you turn down the lights tonight, may your scalp rest calmer, your pillow meet you fresh, and your heart know that progress is not perfection, it is patience, repeated with kindness.